So one of the questions we're often asked here at Prop Store when we uncover amazing artifacts like this is, where do they come from? And this particular jacket has got a great story behind it.
The origins of that story begin when I was working on the Star Wars Costumes book a few years ago. Star Wars Costumes, the original trilogy. And when I was researching for that book, I spent a lot of time talking to John Mollo, who was the Oscar-winning costume designer who designed both the first Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back. And going over John Mollo's notes, I came across references to a small vendor named Victor Somkowick, who was previously an employee of Bermans Nathans, which is the main costume shop that did the first Star Wars.
Bit of detective work there. And then from that sort of led us to unearth some information about what happened to these costumes after the production. There's, again, a misconception, a popular misconception, that all of the props and costumes that are made for movies end up owned by the production company. And in the instance of Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and in certain instances for Return of the Jedi as well, the costumes were actually made to hire, and that's the case with these. So we established that it wasn't material that was made by Bermans and Nathans. It was made by a smaller production department or an independent production department working on these costumes. We knew that it was made to hire, so there was a possibility that it could have ended up back with them afterwards. And I think from that we established that they actually went out of business, didn't they, in the mid-80s or something like that, and had a liquidation sale.
That's right, and they sold all of their inventory to a smaller costume rental house that mostly deals with theater groups and things like that. And
that's right.
We went looking for them, established contact with that group.
And got to be clear, at this point we weren't actually specifically looking for the Han Solo jacket, we were looking for any costumes that might have been from Empire Strikes Back. So it took over a year for me to persuade him to allow us just to go and have a look through his facility. We drove for about 6 hours. It was myself with my general manager, Tim Laws from the UK. Turned up at his facility, a little bit of a mess, a little bit disorganised. It had a fire a few years ago and a lot of the material was just still sitting in pallets and on boxes after the fire. No lighting in some of the areas as well. We went down with heavy torches. And we spent the whole day there going through the rails, going through these boxes and just seeing what we could find. Towards the end of the day, I was going through just some of the military jackets, just sliding them through on the rails, and I put my hand on this jacket, slid it back, and thought, hang on a second, I think I know what that is. Slid it back again, pulled it up, and I called Tim over and I said, you know what, I think we might have just found Han Solo's jacket.
That's quite a thing to pull off a rail. And it's interesting that it was there in the costume rental department, and probably one of the reasons that it went back into rental stock is the nature of it. You know, it is a relatively simple jacket, and that is what George Lucas wanted. I mean, the main directive that he gave to costume designer John Mollo was, keep it simple. I don't want the audiences focused on the costumes. We don't want anything too spacey. You know, we want it to look very, very real world, like something it's not going to stand out. It's not going to catch your eye too much. And that's essentially what this jacket is, you know. There's some very cool sort of stylized elements, like this triple stitch banding on the sleeves here, which also show up on Luke's jacket in Empire, most likely made by the same vendor, although we didn't find that one there, unfortunately. But you know, overall, it's very straightforward and yet somehow very Han Solo. We know that there were at least 2 jackets worn by Harrison Ford in The Empire Strikes Back, but this one is specifically used for many of the scenes on Cloud City. So where Han encounters Darth Vader and Boba Fett for the first time, that dining room scene, that is this exact jacket. Some of the scenes shot in the cockpit, some of the other scenes shot walking through the hallways of Cloud City, they're all this exact jacket. And in addition to very specific tells, like the stitch lines within the collar, there are basic things like the pocket placement. So obviously each of the Harrison Ford jackets made for the film was made by hand, and there are slight differences in the pocket placement. So one of the other jackets that you see prominently on the Hoth Ice Cave, this pocket here sits much closer to the opening of the jacket. On this one, it's a good inch and a half wider. So when you go through the film and you're looking at it very carefully, you can actually pick up on those differences on the screen. And I think some of the pocket creases as well.
Yeah, when you're watching the movie, if you're looking for those, they really stand out. I think one of the other really interesting elements about this jacket is actually the colour, isn't it, Brandon?
Yeah, when I was speaking to John Mollo, we talked a lot about colour and how colour on film is really a tricky thing, especially blues. For whatever reason, blues have a tendency to photograph in a variety of different manners. So he said if you make something a deep blue or navy blue, it'll absolutely read as black on the screen. If you want it to read as navy blue on the screen, you've got to be a much lighter tone in your color. And I think that's why dye work is such a big part of film costumes. It's likely that this fabric would have been custom dyed to this shade for the film, and it is very much a medium gray. People are sometimes struck when they see it in person by the fact that it's not that deep navy that they remember from the poster or from the action figure, because that is how everyone interpreted it. Obviously, that's the way it's sort of shot on film, and we have to consider that the film was color timed and graded after it was captured by the camera as well. But the jacket itself, and this is not a fading issue. When you look inside the pockets where there's been no exposure to light or anything else, the color is exactly the same. If this color hasn't changed, this is exactly what the color is for The Empire Strikes Back.
So over the last 20 years in business, I think it's fair to say that Prop Store has had a phenomenal array of incredible props and costumes come through our hands. But this particular Harrison Ford Han Solo jacket has to be right up there at the very top.
Yeah, I was doing some research on the jacket and I came up with two interesting facts. Empire magazine at separate times ranked The Empire Strikes Back as the greatest film of all time and Harrison Ford as the greatest actor of all time.
So we got
this is the combination of the two right here.
Yeah.
I think that sort of tells the story. What a special piece and a special film and a special franchise, and it's just a high point in the saga. Really, it doesn't get much better than Han Solo, and I don't think it gets much better than The Empire Strikes Back.
And if you'd like to see this jacket in person, you can actually come down to the Odeon BFI IMAX at Waterloo. There's a 2-week preview exhibition. It's free to enter. We're going to have over 300 props and costumes from a total sale of 600 artifacts on display. You can come down, meet the experts, talk to us, and get up close and personal to a true piece of movie history.
Online proxy bidding for all lots in Prop Store's entertainment memorabilia live auction will begin on August 31st. The auction itself is September 20th at the BFI IMAX in London, and you can come out to the auction in person, or you can follow online with the live stream at propstore.com.